Thank you all for coming. As I said on the assembly floor, we're here because the president-elect said that immigration would be one of his first targets. So we're going to do whatever it takes to be prepared. There's still a lot of uncertainty about what the administration will actually do. But again, we have all heard the insults, and we have all heard the lies. We have also all heard the threats. We introduced these resolutions to remind people of the important role immigrants play in California. Undocumented immigrants contribute $130 billion to the state's gross domestic product. Immigrants pay taxes, sometimes more than billionaires, $2.2 billion in state and local taxes. Immigrants can be found working in every sector of our economy: technology, healthcare, agriculture, and construction, to name a few. We also introduced these resolutions to provide a baseline from which all other legislative and legal actions will spring. We know civil rights, the environment, healthcare, and other key issues will also come under attack. We will be following similar paths in those areas. Of course, we will also be focusing on key issues like transportation, affordable housing, and jobs. We have to do whatever it takes to protect California and its people from the reactionary onslaught we expect out of Washington, D.C. That includes immigrants. As these resolutions state, California wants no expedited removal without due process, no mass deportations, and no more bigoted rhetoric. And that's where we stand on day one. I'd like to introduce my colleague and partner, Senate Pro Tem Kevin De Leon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, Anthony Rendon, as well as to my colleagues both in the Senate as well as the Assembly. Throughout the presidential election, and since the president-elect has made many troubling statements that run counter to the principles that define California today, we reject the politics of hate and exclusion. Rather, we are guided by the principles of justice and dignity for all people, regardless of what language they speak, what they look like, who they love, or the God that they worship. There's possibly no greater policy area than immigration, where the president-elect's comments and stated goals run headlong into these principles. His heated rhetoric has families living in fear. Again, school children are again feeling the sting of discrimination. His election has energized bigots who use the words like build the wall and deportation as weapons. When the president-elect lays out a mass deportation strategy on national television, vastly overstating the number of undocumented immigrants in the United States who have committed violent crimes, he is confirming our worst fears. The president-elect chooses to ignore facts and instead continues to recklessly portray the undocumented community as a lawless population. Painted by the president-elect's broad strokes are the nannies who watch our children, the domestic workers who clean our homes, the hard-working heads of household, and the dreamers pursuing the California dream. The president-elect has hailed as a success the Eisenhower's administration's mass deportation program, which came to be known as Operation Wetback. Hundreds of thousands of Mexican immigrants were inhumanely deported and rounded up and deported. They were crammed into overcrowded trucks, trains, and boats like livestock. Scores died from heat exposure. Fathers left for work in the morning, never to return and never to be seen again by their wives and their children. Families were shattered. Discrimination was rampant. Operation Wetback was not merely an enforcement program. It was designed to create fear of those who did not fit the 1950s profile of what was considered an American. Regardless of who is in the White House, California will not return to those dark days. I'm very proud to be here standing with my colleagues and the leader of the State Assembly, Anthony Rendon, and the two leaders here today as well, Senator Ben Hueso, the newly elected chair of the Latino Legislative Caucus, and also Rob Bonta, the Assembly member from the County of Alameda. They will speak in a few minutes about the measures that they will be introducing also too. Lastly, I want to say that not since Governor Pete Wilson and his mean-spirited Proposition 187 have we seen the immigrant community vilified for political expediency to this degree. But in doing so, the president-elect threatens the economic well-being of this state and the nation. It's probably a safe bet that the average undocumented family pays more in taxes than the president-elect. Undocumented immigrants make 10% of California's workforce and continue to contribute more than $130 billion annually to our gross domestic product. It is neither humane nor wise to ignore the many contributions of this community to our economy and culture. California celebrates diversity, and we won't deport it. With that, it is a deep honor and pleasure to introduce the Assembly member from the City of Oakland and the County of Alameda, that is Mr. Rob Bonta. Mr. Rob Bonta.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm Rob Bonta, serving the State Assembly, 18th Assembly District, Oakland, Alameda, and San Leandro, and also honored to serve as the chair of the Asian Pacific Islander Legislative Caucus. And I just want to say how proud I am of our leaders and our majorities in both houses for our very strong statements and positions that we took today in support of our immigrant communities, to be sure, but also the defining values which make us who we are, our support for opportunity and equity, inclusion, and justice. And that's what we're standing up to say today. California has always led. We will continue to lead. And we're going to continue to be who we are and what's in our DNA and what is part of our identity. And we've been a beacon of hope and a shining light. We were on election night as a state, and we're going to continue to fight for our communities that we care about so deeply. And I just want to share a personal story. You know, when we talk about immigrants, sometimes it can be discussed as a conceptual entity. But you know, many of us here are immigrants or children of immigrants. My mother, Cynthia, who's sitting here on the fourth row, is an immigrant from the Philippines who came here as an adult. I was born in the Philippines and came here as a baby, and we came here to rebuild our lives in California and sought the California dream. I'm honored and want to take a moment of assembly member privilege to recognize my wife, Mia, and my daughter, Reina, who are here as well. And I think my father, Warren, is here as, in the audience as well. And, you know, we've taken some strong positions in support of immigrants, and we also want to tell you exactly how we're going to do that. And one of the ways how is the bill that I'm introducing, or that I've introduced. It's AB 3, and I want to tell you about that. We can no longer ignore how deeply intertwined our immigration and criminal law systems have become. A wide number of criminal convictions now result in the additional and irreversible punishment of oftentimes mandatory deportation and other severe consequences, thereby tearing families apart literally every day. Immigration judges have been greatly stripped of their discretion in these cases, putting the right to a fair day in court out of reach for both permanent residents and undocumented immigrants alike who have already served their time in our criminal legal system. Currently, even a single misdemeanor conviction can result in someone's automatic and permanent deportation, even if they've lived in California for decades, are raising their family in our neighborhoods, and have served in our military. Public defenders are the first line of defense for immigrants navigating our criminal legal system. Because our immigration system does not yet provide access to representation, these public defenders are often the first and last lawyer that most immigrants will see, and their guidance will directly influence a person's risk of deportation. Public defenders are required by the Constitution to proactively advise their immigrant clients not only of the options available to them in their criminal case, but also of the immigration consequences of those options. We as a state have a responsibility, in our collective view, to set our public defenders up for success and ensure that they meet a baseline standard for effective representation for all of their clients, including immigrants. This requires that they receive crucial support on the complexities of immigration law, which is nuanced and sophisticated, and have access to funding for technical support and mentoring. Make no mistake, the stakes are incredibly high. Families are being separated as we speak. Long-term Californians are being ripped from their homes, leaving their loved ones here to pick up the pieces. This access to due process is critical to stop the spread of unnecessary deportations. Providing this constitutionally mandated support will not only ease the pressure on our already overburdened court system, it will also save our state money by avoiding the shared cost of deportation, such as loss of tax revenue and increased reliance on foster care and other social services that we are forced to bear. As we head into a presidential administration that has promised to launch a witch hunt on a quarter of our state's population, California is poised to lead the effort with other like-minded jurisdictions around the country to keep families together by preventing avoidable deportations. I'm honored to be here with my colleagues to lead the fight in California to support our immigrants. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to thank all my colleagues for standing united in this fashion and showing a show of strength, and also introducing legislation that is a bold response to what we've heard from the future presidential administration. I'm very proud to be the new chair of the California Legislative Latino Caucus. I am very humbled and gratified to serve as this new role in an organization that has just an amazing history of fighting for everybody's interest. In fact, I mean, the truth is we stand for equity, an equitable community. We stand for a California that represents everybody's interest. And for 40 years, the California Latino Caucus has been fighting for a seat at the table. And what we have accomplished working with the greater California community is that we have a California that's standing united on these issues that is very much different from other parts of the country, and as a model for other parts of the country in terms of embracing the power of diversity. The power of diversity has made our state the most prosperous state in the nation. California has led in so many areas that are meaningful to the people, not only of the people of our state, but areas that affect the entire world. We're taking a leadership role in climate change and trying to reverse the effects of climate change. We're working to give everybody clean air here in our state. We're working to create a vibrant and sustainable economy. We're working to be an inclusive state. Things that are very different from what this administration stands for, and we're very concerned that those very policies are going to come back and hurt the progress our state has made. We have an obligation to defend what we have fought for. We have an obligation to defend every person that is under the shadows of the California flag. Because under that flag, we have shown that California is a leader in our nation, providing access to the American dream and access to quality education and access to so many things that we should hold dear as a nation. I am also working with my colleagues to introduce a bill that will also help the poorest of the poor, the people that are the most underserved and the people that are most vulnerable in our community. We're calling it the Due Process for All Act, and it is working to provide a representation or due process through the legal system, as we have mentioned. This bill will pretty much mean the difference between being able to stay in the country for some of these families or being torn away from their family and their community. In California, 83% of the immigrants who are facing deportation but have never had a lawyer won their immigration cases, compared to 24% of the immigrants who did not have assistance or counsel. this makes a huge difference in making sure people have the adequate representation through the legal system as they face. We don't know what the mechanisms that will be used to accomplish this by the future administration, but California will be prepared to represent them through the legal process, especially if there is a legal process. But currently, 68% or over 2/3 of all the immigrants detained at immigration detention centers in California do not have an attorney representing them. The Due Process for All Act is the last line of defense in preventing unjust deportations. It will keep loved ones together with their families. It will keep employees working, and it would hopefully make communities whole. We should do everything in our power to ensure that immigrants and everybody in our state are not left alone. As a father of an immigrant, my father became a U.S. citizen in 1952. And with reference to the Eisenhower policy, it affected my father deeply. Despite being a U.S. citizen, he was deported 3 times. And this resulted in changing everything about how he spoke, how he conducted himself. I believe it was deeply traumatic on my father. Because of that, everywhere he went, he wore a suit. For my entire life, I knew my father in a suit because he was looking to be treated with dignity. He was looking to be treated with respect because the government and the safety net and everything that we hold dear failed in its opportunity to recognize him as a person in equal standing in our community. And for that, he suffered very much. And I do not wish that on anybody in the community in the future. I'm afraid that there will be many innocent victims of a terrorizing policy that has in its aim, the result of just hurting people on the what the argument that it is a policy that's attempting to enforce the law. We are better than that as a people. We are better than that as a country. And we need to bend together and stand for what's right, stand what's just, and treating people with dignity, treating people with respect. And I stand united with my colleagues in fighting that fight. Thank you very much.
We'll take a handful of questions. How much?
What kind of money are you talking about?
I think it's premature to talk about exact numbers at this time. We're going to figure out what those look like, but it will be an amount that will make a significant impact and get the job done that the bill seeks to get done.
Is it millions? Is it tens of millions?
I mean, we're starting with looking at numbers over 10 million.
Over 10 million. Is that the case, Senator Weissel?
I would put a range, over 10 million, maybe under 80 million.
Laura?
So these are urgency bills. Do you believe that you have 2/3 of each house that will support them?
Again, they were introduced just a little while ago. We haven't done haven't gone through a roll call list. And the members I know are going to do their due diligence. I would say that these ideas have tremendous support certainly among our caucus. You saw today on the floor there were, I believe, 2 Republicans who voted in favor of H.R. 4, and I think that speaks loudly.
Why are you doing them as urgency bills?
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
Why are you doing them as urgency bills?
We're doing them as urgency bills because there's an urgency of deportation of young children and women and families. The president-elect takes office on January 20th, and obviously the urgency is immediate. It can't wait to 2018, January 1st. On the fiscal issue, obviously, the Speaker and I, and respectively through the budget committees, will be going through the proper, transparent process with regards to the fiscal aspects, how much it will cost, what it will take, our engagement with the governor as well. But this is a salvo, if you will, across the board to make it very clear that these are the values of Californians. These are the values of all of these members here collectively together today, because these members here represent millions of individuals up and down the state of California. So if you have elected officials who represent millions here today, something's amiss and something is wrong with the direction of this nation if in fact there is of the potential of mass deportation and the breaking up of families and deporting women and children from this country.
Are you worried at all about coming off as a bit too overzealous? For instance, we just came from a press conference with the governor where we heard a lot of like, wait and see, we don't know, we have to be cautious. Are you worried that in taking this stance, you might run the risk of hurting your relationship with the federal government at all?
I'm not concerned about that at all. I think the president-elect has made his stance is clear on immigration and a variety of other issues that we're all concerned about, whether it's climate change or the role of organized labor. I think the president has promised on day one that he is going to, quote unquote, tackle the immigration issue. This is our day one. We're doing the same thing.
Yeah, let me say, and I want to echo the Speaker's comments. It's not our responsibility to read the tea leaves and predict what the President-elect may or may not do, or what his administration may or may not do. It's our responsibility, it's our moral responsibility as senators, as assembly members, to do everything within our power to protect our constituents, to alleviate the sense of anxiety, fear, and panic that is deep in many communities throughout the state of California. We're mature adults. When you hear the comments that we have heard to date during the course of the presidential election and obviously after the election, November 8th, it gives us great concern, without question. When you have individuals such as Chris Kobach, who is the chief architect of SB 1050 of Arizona, as the chief immigration advisor to the president-elect, it gives us all concern. So when you have, again, the Attorney General designee, Jeff Sessions, who is the most staunch anti-immigrant senator in the U.S. Senate, obviously that gives us a great amount of concern. Any attempt to undermine the values of the state of California undermines the economy of California. And if you undermine the economy of California, you are undermining the economy of the United States of America. We are 13% of the overall GDP of the United States of America. We respect diversity, we respect individuals for who they are and where they come from, and quite frankly, the fact that we're still debating and talking about this issue is a reflection across the board of Washington, D.C., and not doing the job they're supposed to do with regard to immigration, a comprehensive immigration reform package.
The president-elect said he intends to strip funding. Anticipate having to fight over places holding on to money as a trade-off for refusing that type of cooperation?
I don't know if it's a fight that we have to anticipate, whether or not it comes to fruition or not, and hopefully it won't. But it's something we have to be prepared for. In my district and the districts of everybody behind me, there are people who are scared. There are people who are petrified. They're petrified for their future, petrified about their families. They're petrified about leaving a country that they contribute to and that they consider home. We have to be prepared. We have to provide those people with some consolation, with a sense that we are fighting for them and that we are going to continue fighting for them.
Senator, the only definitive statement that the president-elect has made about deportations, and he made it on CBS News, was that he's going to actively deport people who are here illegally who have also been convicted of felonies, other than the fact that they're here illegally. Do you oppose those deportations?
I'm not quite sure if I heard it that way. I won't dispute that that was stated.
Okay.
I base my declarations, my comments based on the 60 Minutes interview that was given by Donald J. Trump with regards to the 3 million criminal immigrants in the United States of America. To be very clear, we don't understand the methodology because there are no 3 million criminal immigrants in the United States of America. So we don't know if that is a pretense, if you will, to loosen up the criteria and to initiate the deportations of families, of nannies, of mothers who take care of other children, who in fact perhaps the only crime is a broken taillight. So
These
we
are
don't know.
felonies.
Yeah, so we don't know. With individuals who are felons, we've never had a problem with the deportation of individuals who are felons from the United States of America. Dangerous criminals, drug dealers, violent criminals, there's never been an issue on this issue, never.
So with that, to the extent he said that, you would agree with him?
Again, I want to say, I didn't hear him make the comment. When I hear him make the comment, then I'll give you a
I
statement.
will send you a tape.
Okay.
Senator Waiso, I'm not sure I understood. You said 10 to 80 million for your measure or for both measures? And first, and then the second question is, how many attorneys do you envision the state, would these be state employees you would hire?
No, they would be attorneys at large. They would be attorneys that have experience in practicing immigration law. They would be attorneys that understand the process. So
So would they be private attorneys who you contract with, or would they be state employees?
it would be very similar. We're looking at the concept very similar to the public defender program. So court-appointed attorneys. And as far as the number, yeah, we're looking at a combination of both bills for that.
The
And-
court
that amount.
appoints them and the
So is
government
it-
pays them.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
The court would appoint them, and the administration or the department in charge of these funds would.
So they
would,
would be from a panel and not civil servants, not state or county employees. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
So is the supermajority then like a key to fighting the Trump administration? I mean, having the 2/3 majority in both houses, is that critical then as part of your strategy?
From our perspective, I think the supermajority says a lot about the will of Californians. It says a lot about the values of Californians, and that those values are quite distinct from the values of the next administration. How that will manifest itself in terms of policies, as you know, is always difficult to predict.
¿Podrían hablar un poco acerca de lo que podría pasar a nivel federal, de las relaciones que podrían, no sé, haber un problema a ese nivel?
Bueno, voy a declarar algunos comentarios muy breves en español. Durante la campaña presidencial y desde entonces, el presidente electo ha hecho muchas declaraciones perturbadoras que son opuestas a los valores, a los principios que hoy día defienden al Estado de California. Quizás no existe otra área de la política pública más importante que la migración, donde los comentarios del presidente electo y sus declaradas metas chocan de frente con estos principios, los valores nuestros aquí del Estado de California. Su retórica repugnante tiene a las familias viviendo un temor, de nuevo, y los niños en las escuelas sienten nuevamente el dolor de la discriminación a lo largo y ancho del Estado de California. El presidente electo opta por ignorar los hechos concretos, y decide continuar representando de una forma muy responsablemente a la comunidad indocumentada como una población fuera de la ley. El papel nuestro como oficiales electos, con el presidente de la Asamblea, su servidor, el presidente del Senado y todos mis colegas de la Asamblea y del Senado, es hacer todo lo posible para defender los derechos plenos de las recamareras, de las amas de casa, de los cocineros, de los jornaleros, aquellas personas que contribuyen a la quinta potencia mundial del estado de California. No buscamos un pleito con nadie, pero estamos listos para defender los derechos plenos de los inmigrantes aquí en el estado de California, el estado más diverso del mundo. I want to say one thing too, and I think I speak for, on behalf of my good friend Anthony too. We're not looking for fights. We have a lot of work to do here. We're not looking for a fight. But we can find common ground with the administration. We want to find that common ground. We want to work in a collaborative fashion together to help move this nation together. But as elected officials of the most diverse state, the greatest mosaic of ethnicity and different hues on this planet, it's our moral responsibility, it's our political responsibility to defend the most vulnerable of this state and of this nation. Again, we're not looking for a fight. We don't want a fight. We're looking to find common ground to really move this nation together, irrespective of where you may stand on the election November 8th. But it is our responsibility to make sure that we protect the most vulnerable in our society. All right, with that, thank you very much.
I'm
Thank you
sorry,
very much.
Mr. Speaker, just very quickly before we go, when you said white nationalists and anti-Semites have no business working in the White House, were you talking about people, was that Steve Bannon that you were referencing?
Yes, it was.
Okay, anyone else?
That was it for now. For now.
Anthony.
All right.